What's going on, guys? Hope all my freedom loving patriots are having a blessed day. If you wouldn't mind and haven't yet, please like, comment, and subscribe to an America First Conservative. We are going to be doing a live reaction podcast today to Piers Morgan Uncensored. He just released this recently today, so they're talking about Trump's cabinet picks. I think right now he looks like he is an all-star team going in this next administration. And as we know, the left is fear-mongering and panicking as they always do when they don't get their way. But we're going to get to it, guys. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let's get it started.
To all of us, stellar panel. Vinny, let me start with you because you're probably likely to be the most jubilant member of the panel today. Your thoughts on Trump's cabinet picks so far?
First of all, thank you, Piers, for having me on. Again, it's an honor. And what's up, everybody in the panel? I think they're actually fantastic, Piers. And actually, I brought notes today. So first of all, Piers, Rubio's going to take Tony Blinken's spot, right? Tony Blinken's history. Left 13 dead service members in Afghanistan, allies abandoned, weak on China. And I don't know if you guys paid attention. He wants to rush $8 billion to Ukraine before January 20th. And last night,
What's going on, Squid Man? Hope you're having a great day, bro.
Vladimir Putin was threatening nuclear war. And by the way, you know where Joe Biden is? In the Amazon dressed like Crocodile Dundee, Piers. It's absolutely ridiculous. I think they're all Pete Hegseth. They're calling him a white supremacist. And it's like, you know what I realized something?
Hey, Sharon. Hope you're having a great day.
Piers, the left just will not understand. They've been to the Super Bowl twice. They've lost twice. They're using the same plays, and it's not working. Change your offensive BS rhetoric. Your offensive coordinator's horrible. Tulsi Gabbard is a freaking veteran. Pete Hegseth, veteran. He has a tattoo on his chest.
They're mad because they're not bureaucrats. There's these Washington swamp bureaucrats that the people don't want, that the people never elected. And because they know they're not going to fall in line like all these other politicians, bureaucrats that are owned by China, owned by big interests, owned to create wars off your taxpayer dime while our military members, kids all die because they want to get rich. That is all it comes down to. And Pete Hegseth, he's a patriot. He served this country. Matt Gaetz, patriots, served this country. They don't want him in those roles because they know they're not going to take crap from him. They know they're not going to engage and sell out like this whole administration under Biden/Kamala has. It's really that simple.
He's a Nazi.
No, I haven't gotten the hat yet. For some reason, it won't be here till next week. I'm not sure why, but yeah, I wish. Otherwise, I'd be wearing it right now.
It's a Christian cross. And one of the best ones, getting Alejandro Mayorkas, who is one of the worst criminals in this country, what he's done with the border, what he's done with FEMA, Piers, I am so excited. And you know what this is, Piers? This right here, can you guys see it on the camera? That's me playing the world's smallest violin for all these crying Democrats. I can't wait for this administration to get stuff going. I'm excited.
I think Jillian might be agreeing with
liberal tears are the best. I'm sorry, but it's true. And usually when you talk to these people who are crying with the liberal tears, they can't give you like 5 solid reasons on why they're crying, why they're fear-mongering, because they've been fed this Trump, he's the worst person since Hitler nonsense.
There. I'm not sure the other two will. Let me go to Richard Painter. Richard, there's clearly a divide in the Republican Party. There are the pro-Trump element of the party who are gung-ho for this and think this is exactly the kind of disruption that they were hoping he would do if he won again. And my goodness, he's doing it. But there are also more what I would call perhaps traditional Republicans, and I would park you in that camp, who are not as happy about all this and think this goes against what he should be doing.
Is Piers really that dumb that he has not seen the lawfare pushed on Trump the last 4 years? What are you saying, Piers? I cannot stand people like Piers. He's like, we should just pretend that the last 4 years happened and Trump shouldn't show some type of retribution against these people who've committed treason at the highest order against the American people. They have sold out for money, for lawfare, to get rich off dying Americans. And because Trump wants to come in and hold those people accountable and arrest them for the treason they committed, he doesn't agree with it. So now he's anti-Trump. I mean, he's always been anti-Trump. Piers, let's not get it twisted, is a liberal. He's an old school liberal. But the fact that he has a problem with Trump criticizing or going against these people who committed treason at the highest part of treason you can commit they've done, they should be locked up. They should be held accountable. I don't understand how people can say this. Like, oh, you should just ignore the lawfare we pushed on you the last 4 years because you're more mature. No, dude. These people, if given the opportunity and not held to account, are going to continue at the minute Trump gets out of office. So what are you talking about?
Doing as a Republican president. So tell me your view of why you're concerned about these picks.
Well, I'm a political independent now, so I can criticize both parties, and I'm happy to go into details to how I think the Democrats screwed the pooch of this election. Is something that they seem
Who
to be
is
quite
this
good
guy?
at. But bottom line is that Donald Trump, he is the president-elect, but he's the president-elect under our Constitution and the laws of the United States, and the laws must be complied with. He
always went by the laws. He tried through the court system when it came to the election being cheated to go through the court system. The courts turned it down and shut down every hearing. So what did he do? He lawfully left office, even though he got cheated. So I don't get what he's getting out of this. They're going to try to say Trump's against authoritarianism or he's for it and he's a dictator. But he's shown from his last administration, he lawfully left. It's ridiculous. You cannot compare the two sides. There's no comparison at this point.
Has every right to nominate his cabinet for confirmation by the Senate. That is the way this is going to work. He does not have the right to try to force the Senate into recess so he can make recess appointments. The recess is going to be before he takes office. So these nominees need to go through the Senate confirmation process. Now, he has 53, I believe, seats in the Senate with the Republicans. So he just simply needs to convince the Senate these are good nominees. Now, Matt Gaetz, for the Attorney General spot, has an ethics investigation going on in the House. And I don't know what's in that report, and I'm not going to...
I'll tell you, the ethics, it's all hogwash. He was framed by someone, I believe was in the feds or the CIA, which it's already on record. You can go and look this up and find it, saying that he trafficked a young woman. It's been proven 100% false. And then the minute that he actually ousted Speaker, what's his name? What's the previous speaker? Kevin McCarthy. Then they issued the ethics report. There is zero on Matt Gaetz. He is a freedom-loving patriot who served this country. Unlike this, whoever this dude is, they find reasons to go after these people who don't comply with the swamp. It's that simple.
To speculate about what's in that report, but it absolutely must be turned over to the United States Senate for confirmation. I went through this, the Bush administration, every nominee we sent up, they wanted a full background report on, and it was the Republican senators who were harder on us than the Democrats, because the Republicans knew that they voted yes on somebody who had a background problem, they would have to confront the voters, whereas the Democrats may just vote no on all of Donald Trump's nominees. They don't have to worry about it. The Republicans do. So there's going to be a Senate confirmation process. Second, everyone must comply with the financial conflict of interest rules. And that means selling off your assets that conflict with your official duties. We have a criminal conflict of interest statute, 18 United States Code 208, and you may not participate in a government matter that impacts your financial holdings. So Elon Musk, he may be outside the government, and there's a way to work that under the Federal Advisory Committee Act, where he can be outside the government and advise the government. But they're going to have to do this according to the law. And that's all I'm going to insist on. I'm not going to weigh in on the policy preferences and so forth. The voters have had their say, whether the voters voted for Donald Trump's policies or whether the voters were fed up with the way the Democrats handled things, with Joe Biden hanging on to this thing all the way through July and then swapping out candidates. I think Kamala Harris was a perfectly good candidate, but they only gave her about 100 days to run when the Democrats should have realized.
What exactly was she a good candidate for? She got her foot in the door, no offense, by sleeping with musicians at her start of her career. Then she moved up to politicians. Willie Brown was one of the most powerful politicians in San Francisco, who was married, by the way, and Kamala slept with him. That's on file. That's on record. That's how she got her foot into politics. And then when she was in politics, she locked up a lot of black men for minor weed crimes and then used them for cheap labor, and then falsely locked up a man for murder that he didn't even commit, which he's come out and said. Judge Joe Brown as well has completely exposed Kamala's past. She's lied about her grandma. It wasn't really her grandma. I mean, everything about Kamala is fraudulent. She has no policy. She ran on no policy. She ran on reproductive rights, which just means abortions, That's it. And that she's not Trump in January 6th. She's not qualified. She never was qualified, and she will never be qualified.
Biden was a one-term president years ago. So they flubbed it. And Donald Trump's our president. I just want to be the president in accordance with the Constitution and the laws of the United States.
Okay, Dave Smith, I want to play a little mashup of the reaction to Matt Gaetz in particular being nominated to be Attorney General. Let's take a look.
You're getting Matt Gaetz, and they hate Matt Gaetz.
Yes.
They hate Matt Gaetz more than they hate anybody. These establishment Republicans.
He's never going to get confirmed. I'm looking at him as a member of Congress and the job that he has done here. And it has been.
We need to write down in all these states of any Republican that does not confirm Trump's picks, we need to write down and mark it on the calendar when their primaries are up, because we need all of these swamp creatures, even on the right. And that's what I always say. We have some swamp creatures on our side. Even if they're going to go against the America First agenda, we vote them out. It's that simple. We have no time for BS anymore. These dudes want to play politics and play games with Americans' lives while Americans are still dying on a daily basis from all this havoc from this current administration, then they're done. And Trump has shown that since he's gotten to politics. The Romneys, the Obamas now are done. The Clintons, shall I go on? He's ended so many political families eras that have been in the politics spotlight forever, and I'm here for it. And all of them.
Important.
When I heard that Matt Gaetz was picked to be Attorney General, I threw up in my mouth.
It must be the worst nomination for a cabinet position in American history.
Why not? I mean,
you realize all these people that are talking negative about Matt Gaetz in these picks right now are all swamp creatures. I mean, Jimmy Kimmel, who literally cried, one of the biggest liberals ever. The warmonger before that, Bolton. And then, disgusting, the people they're using as examples.
Matt Gaetz is going to be Attorney General. Bring in Gary Busey to run the CIA. Go for broke.
Clearly, it's just kind of like a God tier kind of trolling, just to trigger a meltdown.
Dave, your response to the picks generally, but particularly Matt Gaetz.
Well, I mean, I think that essentially the picks who the corporate media are freaking out about are the best picks that Trump's made. Personally, I
know I keep pausing it. I'm sorry, guys. I won't do it as much. These type of shows really get me into my feelings. I'm not going to cuss. I'm not going to scream, but I like speaking about what's being spoken about. I won't pause it as much, but great point by Dave Smith. If the swamp, if the political corrupt media are freaking out about it, that's how you know right on target.
Not too happy with a lot of his foreign policy picks. But I think having Tulsi as DNI and Matt Gaetz as the Attorney General and Bobby Kennedy at the Health Department, these are the best picks that Trump's made.
Yes.
And of course, in the upside down world that we live in, the corporate media, the professional lying class,
I agree,
people who
Squid
told
Man.
you that Joe Biden was sharp as a tack and Kamala Harris was joy and a phenomenon, and Tony Hinchcliffe was a speaker at an event making a comment, and there was a Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden, and the list goes on and on and on and on. That's just in the last few months. Yeah, of course, they're all freaking out about this. I think what's really going on here is that Donald Trump has quite craftily put a person in charge of national intelligence and a person in charge of the Justice Department, assuming they get confirmed, who were outside of the Russiagate hoax. And this is what's making everybody freak out right now. You know, so many things happen in modern America. There's so many big stories that we kind of forget that a few years ago, there was this little tiny story where the intelligence agencies framed the sitting president for treason for years and had their corporate media outlets say that the
great point. That's the best point I've heard so far. And remember, this goes back to my previous point. Piers doesn't want Trump to have any retribution on these people who committed treason, as Dave Smith just said. They committed treason saying that Trump won because Russia helped them win the election. The Democrat Party was the whole reason that happened, starting with Obama, Biden, and Hillary Clinton. So why, again, should they not be held to account, Piers Morgan? Because he's in bed with them too. Bam.
sitting president, the biggest scandal, if true, in the history of the United States of America, that sitting president was involved with a hostile foreign power in a conspiracy to overthrow our elections. They knew this was not true. They lied. And now their bosses are not only people who were outside of this conspiracy, but in Tulsi Gabbard's example, someone who was also smeared with that same accusation. As you saw, Joy Reid, as you played, just did the same thing again. And I'll say, I'm sorry, I don't want to go too long here. I'll just say this. It is the most vicious, dishonest, despicable smear to use this innuendo where you say, you know, Putin, Russia's thrilled that Tulsi Gabbard's in there. And it kind of leaves the viewer with this like implicit accusation that this woman who served her country is a traitor to her country. When
that's all the left does. They'll fearmonger and say Putin's going to be happy. Why would Putin be happy? Nothing happened under Trump's first administration. Putin didn't invade. He did invade under Biden, though, because he doesn't fear Biden or Kamala. He actually laughs at him, doesn't answer their calls, nor doesn't respect them. But nothing happened under Trump, so he must be in bed, best friends with Putin, just like Tulsi Gabbard. It makes zero sense. The population isn't falling for it anymore. When you literally, your last resort is to just say, okay, Trump picked him, we don't like him because they're anti-war representatives, so they must be Putin lovers. That doesn't make sense. And the majority of Americans just aren't falling for it anymore. It doesn't make sense.
Nothing. Look, in 2002, if you opposed the war in Iraq, Saddam Hussein probably would have been happy to see you in there. But that doesn't mean you're a traitor to your country. That just meant that in 2002, you were right while the entire establishment was wrong.
And listen, Piers was a part of that establishment.
We're going to come to the foreign policy part a little later. And I know you've got differing views there about some of the picks, but interesting to see what you said about those three. Let me go to Gillian, because specifically, you're a fitness guru, obviously, and radiating good health today, may I say so. But this whole issue of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., it's interesting. Before I interviewed him, and I've interviewed him maybe 5-6 times now, I had a kind of view of him that I'd seen from the media, that he was a complete crackpot, that he was anti all vaccines and so on and so on. And that certainly wasn't the impression I got. And actually, the more I interviewed RFK Jr., the more impressive I felt he was. He's obviously fiercely intelligent. He's extremely well-read. And it seems to me he comes at this essentially from a good place. He wants more transparency, and he wants to make America a healthier place.
What's wrong with that?
Am I living in cloud cuckoo land, Gillian, or is that pretty much the reality?
So the Democrats hate him because he says, before we put out pharmaceutical, you know what, or new medicines, we should have long-term testing. We should have proper studies, not just ship them out so big pharma can make billions off, people getting injured, let's say. I don't want to go past that speaking point because we know how CommieTube, aka YouTube, does if you speak about the pharmaceutical companies. They are owned and bought by them. But it always says we just want better testing. We want more transparency on what's being put out. What's wrong with that? We want people to be healthier. We don't want stuff injected into the foods. We want America to be healthy again. But remember, according to Joy Reid and MSNBC, being healthy, being in shape, working out, it's a right-wing conspiracy. It's a conservative thing. It's not a Democrat thing. They're for being fat and out of shape, I guess.
That's exactly the reality. Is he eccentric? Yes, he's a little bit eccentric, but he's a good person. If you look at his history, this is a guy who sued Monsanto, DuPont, General Electric. He's an environmental attorney. His goal was to clean up chemicals out of our environment to help people not get cancer. Now, if you look at what he's promised to do, it's 3 things. So the first one, obviously, is he wants to end corruption. If you look at the revolving door between our government agencies and industry, it's terrifying. I could give you a million different examples of how scary this is, but let's go to one that everybody knows, which is OxyContin. The guy at the FDA who approved OxyContin went and took a cushy job for Purdue.
Yes.
There are a million examples like this. He wants gold standard research when it comes to vaccines and drugs, but particularly vaccines, because the research on those is not up to par. And I'm going to give you a perfect example. He wants human randomized control trials. So if you look at hepatitis B, which is one of the most controversial vaccines for kids, because it's specifically for people who have risky sex and use needles, and you can test the mother to find out if she's negative before you vaccinate the newborn. So why does a child even need this? Well, ironically, after the drug companies were given blanket immunity in 1986, they added 48 more doses of vaccinations to the schedule. But let's look at Hep B. What are the clinical trials that it goes through? I think your mind is going to be blown, and I encourage everybody to look this up. It's on the FDA's website. They tested 147 kids in 3 trials, and they monitored them for 5 days. Does that seem up to par? I don't think so. And then the second thing, and by the way, I could give you a million other examples just like this one. And the third thing is he was tasked with dramatically improving the health of Americans. And in case everybody's missed it, we are unhealthier than ever. 74% of adults are overweight or obese. We've all heard the diatribe. I'll run through it one more time. We're more infertile than ever. Infertility rates are going up 1% every year. Autism, 1 in 34 kids. It was like 1 in 10,000 when I was a child. I mean, we could go on and on and on. Does rock bottom have a basement? I don't think so. There's a loophole in the FDA that lets 10,000 chemicals into our food, 9,000 of which are banned in every other country of the developing world. I mean, my God, really? I think what you're seeing here is the absolute panic of big food, big farming, big pharma, and big insurance, and for good reason, because it's absolutely corrupt. And I, for one, am so excited about this, and I will do everything to help get this guy confirmed.
Richard Painter, you were the White House ethics lawyer. This battle really between big industry.
No worries, Sharon, you're good. Anytime you want to bring up a comment or talk about something, I'm always down.
Big pharma, the big military complex, whatever it may be, and government. Do you feel instinctively, you're now an independent, as you said, do you feel instinctively
no, he's not. He's a Democrat.
That it's long overdue time, perhaps, for some disruptive people to get in there and break the cycle?
Well, we just need to have government officials who don't have conflicts of interest,
Like
who
what?
are not kowtowing to industry.
Like what?
But fact of the matter is that both political candidates took an enormous amount of money from large corporations. And it remains to be seen what President Trump will actually do. There's a lot of rhetoric, a lot of talk. Let's see what actually happens, because in his first term, he was not taking on big industry, whether it's the big defense contractors who run our defense budget up sky high to almost $900 billion. The big food companies we just talked about, oil, fossil fuel companies and the like. None of them were taken on. President Biden didn't do that much better a job of taking on the corporate interests. So let's see what actually happens, because there's a lot of talk before the election, and then you get the job and then you have to actually do it. Now, I do hope that instead of talking on and on about Russia and 2016 and so forth, and the 2020 election and all of that, that the president-elect, when he becomes president,
the Democrats
can
that
focus on policy and implementing his policy as best he can in cooperation with a Republican majority in the House and Senate. If this is just going to be a time when people just want to talk about Russiagate or talk about the indictments.
We need to speak about it, because he's just a Democrat, because as we know, the Democrats committed treason. So of course he's going to want us to just push it over the rug, forget about it. Trump did that the first time. And the minute he got out of office, when he was cheated out of office, what happened? They went after him again. So no, if you continue to just brush it off and let the Democrats commit treason on a presidential candidate and the American people on a daily basis, we're not going to have a country. It's going to be a good 4 years under Trump, and then it's going to go right back to what it was like right now under Biden and Kamala. So no, we're not going to forget about it, because it was you and your party that committed treason at the highest order.
January 6th and pardon the January 6ers and so forth. It's just going to be a real mess. He was elected to do a job. He has a majority in both houses. They can do it, but they also need to comply with the Constitution and the laws of the United States. And a lot of reason why these corporations have so
Just want to say hello to my beautiful girlfriend who's watching.
much influence in Republican and Democratic administrations is people are not taking the ethics laws seriously. And it's about time they do.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Vinny, would you disagree with that? I mean, is it not time that America took a good, long, hard look at itself in the mirror? The power of lobby groups, the power of big pharma, the power
I'm
of...
telling you, Vinny right here, the tan American loving patriot who also fought in the military and served our country. I feel like I'm him when it comes to his energy. I match his energy because I do get fired up sometimes. I just don't like the Democrat Party and what they stand for and how they're trying to say, hey, we should just forget the last 4 years and Trump should just act like there's no treason that got committed. No, screw that. We need to lock up all these corrupt bureaucrats, these unelected bureaucrats, shut down the teachers union, shut down the CIA, shut down the FBI, and recreate it and put it in control and bring the power back to the people so we can decide what we want.
The military complex and so on. I mean, it does seem that there are so many obvious conflicts here, which have been allowed to run riot for decades.
Yeah, and no, I agree 100%, Piers. You know what I think it is? I think the left has Stockholm syndrome, Piers. They have fallen in love with their abuser, and now they're defending the abuser. And Jillian made a great point about RFK. I mean, who's in there right now, Piers? Xavier Becerra. He's a lawyer. Everybody's like, RFK has no experience. This guy's a lawyer, and she nailed it. Look at the mental health crisis we have going on. Everybody's obese.
Hey, Gina, long time no talk. I hope all is well. I remember that first time I did my live, you were asking all the amazing questions. I'm going to start doing some interviews soon. I want to go to the VA soon and talk to some veterans. So if you have any questions you'd like me to ask them, just let me know. But yes, Trump has the dream team, and I cannot wait to see what happens on day one.
Who's the assistant? Who's the admiral, the assistant? Rachel Levine, who is a biological male. These people are in charge of our health. A biological male dressed as a woman who has been pushing to eliminate age restriction for transgender surgeries for children. I think, Piers, let them cry all they want. They're going to keep crying. This is the change. This is the moment that we need. And I'm happy you played the UFC thing in the beginning. Everybody's dancing like Trump. The vibe is positive. All these football players are dancing and being like him. And this is, Piers, you have to understand, he's coming in and RFK's going to mess with big pharma. That's $1 trillion. Like, these people don't play games, all right? And this guy's lost his father and his uncle, Piers. And a lot of people would say, especially with these JFK files, that the government and the CIA were involved. You go after anybody that's going against war, you wind up dead.
Yes, and that's why they tried to assassinate Trump multiple times, because just like JFK, he was anti-war. They wanted him to actually start or continue in a war. And I forgot when JFK died. Was that in the 50s? And they took him out. That very famous video where it showed him getting shot. They tried to do that to Trump because he's anti-war. And as everyone knows, if there's no war, there's no money for the swamp, the unelected bureaucrats in Washington, and they can't have that. So they start wars, they create wars, they take out people in other countries and install their own little dictator, and then they try to say fighting for democracy, which is just authoritarianism. That's it.
He needs to be careful because they remember how long they denied Secret Service from
Pierce
this guy.
Is annoying, Gina. I agree.
Because Trump was shot in the head. He's messing with big pharma, but I think it's amazing, Piers, and he's the best guy to do the job. Plain and simple.
Homan is the boss.
The presence of Elon Musk is sort of omnipotent right now. He's right with Trump morning, noon, and night.
Good.
Whether he's at Mar-a-Lago, whether he's at Madison Square Garden, whatever. I've met Musk once this summer. He's got a stupendous brain. I mean, I had a couple of hours with him, one with a Q&A and then one just with me, him, and a couple of others. He's got an incredible brain.
Yeah, he's a genius.
There's no question. And I would absolutely back him to sort out extravagant waste in government bureaucracy.
Yeah, they're going to put Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, huge fans of both. I do wish at first, Vivek was VP candidate, but now the more I listen to Vance, the more I actually love him. So they're going to have him and Elon Musk taking care of the finances that the government is spending. So they're going to get to dig into what our taxes are really being funded towards, which I could already tell you that. But I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot more that we don't know that our taxes are being funded towards. But what better man than Elon Musk and Vivek, two self-made billionaires, to take care of the financing of our government? 100% support that.
And Vivek Ramaswamy are doing. But is it right that somebody who is Elon Musk, with all the power that he has in so many different industries, is it right that he now has an unelected superhold over the president?
Dream team right there.
Well, I mean, it's not as if voters didn't know that Elon Musk was in Trump's corner when they elected him. And if anything, I actually think it was one of the things that really helped Donald Trump. I think that one of the things that was different, as we've talked about on the show before, Piers, from 2016 or even 2020, was that you had this group of like Bobby Kennedy and Elon Musk and these kind of former Democrats who were now coming around Donald Trump. And so, look, it's a real question mark what this Doge thing is actually going to end up being. It seems so far to me that Donald Trump has given Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy full reign of an imaginary department that he just made up. And I don't really know what is going to come from that. I was speaking with Vivek the other day, and he is really bullish on it. He's like, no, we've got some great ideas about how this is actually going to work, and we're going to give great recommendations. It remains to be seen.
By the way, friends that are watching, I am looking into getting a clothing press soon. I want to start like an America First clothing brand. I want to do shirts, shorts, all the above, and even maybe coffee mugs one day. But I feel like we need more American-made clothes, American products. So I will show you guys and tell you about it in the near future. I'm looking in the next couple months to get a clothing press and then start from there and see how it goes. But I keep hearing people that I know personally saying that they want clothes or stuff from America. And so I'm going to bring that to you guys. And I hope you guys check it out and share.
I will say that there is this strange dynamic where, like when Elon Musk bought Twitter, even, you would see people in the corporate media freaking out about how a rich person can now control the information as if this is anything new. And as if the owner of the Washington Post is just a middle-class guy or something like that. This is the way American politics works, for better or for worse. There are certainly valid critiques of it, but the issue that people have with Elon Musk, I don't think, is that he's a rich guy who gave a lot of money to Trump's campaign and now has a position. I mean, Miriam Adelson gave Trump $100 million, and okay, she doesn't have a position, but certainly the picks that she would like have a lot of powerful positions in his administration. And this is true on the Democratic side as well. So the difference to me seems to be that Elon Musk is actually talking about cutting some of government spending. Of course, the U.S. federal government is the biggest, most powerful organization in the history of the world, the biggest government that's ever existed.
And I heard someone make a good point the other day about the DOD. So I believe it was in the 50s or 70s. They had less people than they do today. And with technology supposed to be skyrocketing, very beneficial, right? You would think they had less employees, but they have I think it was almost double the employees in the DOD right now compared to the 50s. With technology, that's just not okay. That means that we have a lot of unelected bureaucrats who don't serve our interests, the American people's interests, that need to get fired, that need to get canned. Just like when Elon Musk took Twitter over and brought that toilet seat, and he's like, it's time for y'all to dip. Bye. We need to do that to all of the three-letter organizations.
And so if you dare talk about cutting some spending in that, then all of a sudden you're a pariah. If you talk about exposing corruption, then all of a sudden we have this real problem with rich people in politics. Meanwhile, nobody is saying anything. I shouldn't say nobody, but the same people who are critical of Elon Musk certainly are not talking about Miriam Adelson or Soros or anything like that. So let's be consistent here.
Richard, we're going to let you go. So just finally.
Sharon, I don't know what's been going on, but YouTube has been, I don't know if they're shadow banning me. I'll have like 4 good months of just every video I post is hundreds of views, thousands of views. And now I'm barely getting anything. I feel like I'm getting shadow banned, but I mean, this happens once every few months. I'm trying to post more. Hopefully that solves it, but I don't know what's going on. Barely any people are seeing what I'm posting right now. But yeah, I got my girlfriend actually, who's watching this, got me a dark MAGA hat. Was supposed to be here earlier last week, and now they're saying it's going to be a couple weeks, but I'm assuming probably will be from China. So I want to actually get the necessities to be able to make those, so I can actually make them for you guys, and maybe you can get them off me, and I will of course provide the best price that you guys can get them from.
On Elon Musk, do you see ethical issues with his role at the moment? It's not a government role, it's an advisory role, but it seems to have almost limitless power when it comes to reducing government spending. Is that ethical?
Well, first of all, we should understand that rich people are going to come into the administration, and that has been true of Democrats and Republicans, even though the role of money in politics has escalated dramatically in the United States. But the rich people have gotten the powerful positions, going all the way back to Joe Kennedy, who was ambassador to the United Kingdom under Franklin Roosevelt, who contributed a lot to Roosevelt's campaign and was a complete disaster in that position when Britain was at war with Germany. But we've had that. We had that in the Biden administration. It was very critical of the ambassador of Germany and Canada, who had used money from the University of Pennsylvania to set up a center for Joe Biden, and they got ambassadorships. We're going to have this in the Trump administration. So Elon.
Sorry, guys, I'm not going to play every single topic they speak about, but now they're about to bring Joe Walsh, huge Democrat stooge, and they're going to talk about Tulsi Gabbard, which we're a huge fan of.
Intelligence. Spoke to Jesse Waters at Fox News.
He's already leading. He's already engaging with so many of these world leaders around the world on the phone constantly, and he's showing the kind of leadership that the American people voted for.
We're joined on the panel now is the host of The Social Contract, former Republican presidential candidate and Congressman Joe Walsh, who says that Gabbard is a Putin cheerleader.
They always say that.
Back to Uncensored.
Say that.
You think she's a total disaster. Why?
Yeah, why?
You can't trust her. This country cannot trust her with our intelligence. If I'm Piers, if I'm one of our allies, there's no way if she's appointed, I'm sharing my intelligence with America. Look, I've said before, she's at best a Putin cheerleader. At worst, she's a Putin asset. For the past decade, she has done nothing but defend Vladimir Putin and parrot Putin and Russian propaganda. I mean, again, there's a list. I could take 30 minutes and go through the list. That's a humongous concern.
Soy boy,
she's
Squid
not
Man. Yep.
On our side. She's clearly on Russia's side.
She literally fought for America.
Yeah, how?
She served her country.
This is what I was talking about earlier. The Democrats have no talking points left. So you can continue to call us racist. You can continue to call us bigots. But you can't just say that you're a Putin puppet. Putin didn't do anything under Trump. So you say the same thing about Trump. He didn't invade anyone. He invaded under Kamala and Biden. He invaded under Obama. He did not invade under Trump because Trump was a boss. He's an alpha, and they knew he meant business. They knew under Democrats that they could get away with anything, and that the Democrats would do nothing, as they didn't do nothing. This is just ridiculous that 12 years later they are still doing this till this day. It all started with Hillary Clinton with the Russia hoax that she created, and now they're doing it on Tulsi Gabbard. The deep state is so going guns-ho against Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, Elon Musk, Vivek, and Trump. That's how you know they are spot on and exactly the right people for these roles.
Erica, how can you say she's not on our side?
She's still in the military. She's still in the military. Joe, first of all, this is the guy that says he's not you're not a Democrat.
Oh, yes.
I remember this guy who was on the PPD podcast. You are exactly the problem that, listen to me. I want you to keep talking the way that you're talking because of people like you. Excuse me. You know what? Let me finish. Because of people like you, and your rhetoric, you know what's going to happen? J.D. Vance is going to be the president next. Tulsi Gabbard's going to be the president. Eric Trump's going to be the president. We are going to keep having Republican presidents because of people like you still talking Russia shit, Joe.
See, this guy, Vinny, right here, the guy on the right. This reminds me of my energy so much. I know I need to calm it down. I haven't been cussing. I'm trying to stop the cussing altogether. But I love his energy because he's a patriot. He hates when people lie. You can continue to come out and say, hey, you're a puppet of Vladimir Putin without giving zero evidence or proof or examples why. They literally just say the same CNN talking points and give zero proof or validation of what they say to back it up.
Over it. It's over. You're talking about an active military girl. She's a lieutenant colonel in the army, and you're saying she's an asset. You're an idiot.
Yes.
You're an idiot. And people are tired of your bullshit.
Okay, let him respond.
Change the record.
Let him respond, Benny.
Do me a favor,
Change the record, bro.
Instead of attacking me, attack what I said about Tulsi Gabbard. For a decade,
she's a Russian asset.
Done nothing but parrot Putin. Address that. Address
Really?
But but Joe, I will address that.
I'll address that very
I'm going to come
quickly.
to. Hang on. I'm going to come to Gillian in a second. All I would say, Joe, is I get an email each week from Ian Bremner, one of the guys I most respect in the political world. He's very balanced.
Cringe.
He's very insightful weekly emails about what's going on in the news. He said he's seen absolutely no evidence that she has ever been anything even approaching a Russian asset. He's a total myth.
He is Italian,
of
Gina.
The Democrat side to
he cares about
she ever
truth.
Has been.
Pierce, you're going to ignore 10 years of what she said?
Well, she's allowed to have she's allowed to have an opinion.
Of course she is.
Well, hang on, she's allowed to have an opinion about Ukraine. She can have an opinion about Ukraine.
Of course she
All
is.
Tulsi Gabbard has said about Ukraine is that Russia didn't start the war, which is true because Russia never wanted the war. They said if you enter NATO alliance or NATO altogether, that's not okay. It's really that simple. And then America has been pushing Russia into a corner since Biden's been elected. There was actually peace negotiations on the table. They wanted to negotiate peace, ending the war. And what happened? What did happen? Joe Biden sent Boris Johnson, UK's old prime minister, to break up that peace treaty. And that's what prolonged the war. Bam, bam, bam. And then our taxes. And then this administration is now sending, I believe it was nukes we talked about early, Sharon, right? And that's going to start World War. None of us will be alive if this war continues. And the fact that our own government under Joe Biden is sending all this help, we are literally pushing Russia into a corner. Thank God Trump's coming back soon because he's going to end all that. But we are so close to nuclear war that this has never happened before. And what happens with nuclear war? Everyone's dead. So what's the sole purpose of it? There is no purpose. So you continue to say your little stupid leftist talking points, but just because you don't want war and because we know the truth about Ukraine, that is one of the number one countries for child sex trafficking, that our taxes fund these biolabs, which create warfare that can kill people, millions of people, or that the fact that, I don't need to get into that because I might get banned on YouTube, but Ukraine is not a democracy or a free country. They're literally taking out their political opponents. That's what Zelensky did. He canceled the election. That's what Zelensky did. He was put in that role by our own government. It's really that simple, and that is the truth. But you know what? I'll be called a Putin puppet as well just for saying that.
You may not agree with that opinion. And by the way, I don't agree with her opinion about Ukraine, but she's allowed to have it. It doesn't make her a Russian asset.
No, Piers.
Yeah,
exactly.
Gina, you know
She's
what's up.
allowed to have her opinion. Donald Trump has picked her to head up all our intelligence efforts in this country.
Yeah, but there is
Her
no
opinion
evidence that she would be a threat
she's-
to leaking that intelligence to Russia. It's
Exactly.
It's a myth.
Not at all.
All right, let me go to Gillian.
This is just embarrassing.
Because everything she's done the past 10 years and said has been exactly what Russia would want her to say or do. So she's either an asset or a dupe.
That's
but
the
she's
dumbest
clearly not on our
standard
side.
ever. Who cares?
She's on
If I
Putin's
said Saddam Hussein doesn't have weapons of mass destruction, that might be exactly what Saddam Hussein wants me to say. That doesn't mean anything. You see, Piers, this is the trick here. And I'm sorry, I know you want to go to Julian, but the trick is that the same way they used to say Trump-Russia collusion, they wouldn't say Donald Trump's in a conspiracy with the Russians. You see, because that's actually meets the criminal code. And then so you just say collusion because what does that even mean? They could have had a phone call. Okay, they're colluding, but that's totally legal. So when you say she's a Russian asset, you give this wink and a nod like she's a traitor, when what it means, and Piers, you disagree with me on this topic too, but listen, the argument is that there were 1 million off-ramps to the war in Ukraine,
I know the argument,
West chose to not take any of them, and that this war could have been avoided, and it could have been negotiated away. Now, the idea that if someone makes this argument, your counter to that is to say that you're a Putin asset. This is so, first off, it's just despicable, and it's profoundly stupid. It makes absolutely no sense at all. But listen, at least during the original McCarthyism period, at least during the House Committee on American Activities, at least back then, there were some communists. Nobody is loyal to Vladimir Putin. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
It is the dumbest.
No, Tulsi Gabbard, of course, is entitled to her opinion as a citizen of this country. But if for 10 years your opinion is identical to Russian propaganda,
that doesn't even make sense.
we are entitled to question that. And someone like
yes,
that,
you're saying nothing, and I'm entitled to make the point that that's the dumbest argument I've ever heard in my life.
You both made your points. Let me bring it. Okay, time out.
It's amazing that a man like Joe Walsh right here, soy boy, and that just got welcomed on the show, is even on media in general. But this is your typical Democrat big media pundits right here. They make zero sense. They just call people Putin puppets, and then they give zero proof of anything or facts. There's no facts. It's just because she didn't want the war in Ukraine and it could have been prevented and it wasn't Russia's fault why it happened. That's facts. Then you're a Putin puppet. It makes zero sense.
Let's bring in Gillian. Been waiting very patiently to get back in here. I mean, Gillian, my experience with Tulsi Gabbard, I interviewed Tulsi a couple of months ago. I thought she was extraordinarily impressive, I have to say. And I think this idea that you categorize her because she happens to think that the history of the Ukraine-Russia war, that she actually has a view, which many on the Republican side do, by the way, that actually it could have been avoided.
It could have.
I don't believe that.
Doesn't matter.
I certainly
no one cares
understand
what
that
you think.
view. And it's been...
Piers Morgan, we got to remember, is a liberal. He's clueless. He's not even from the United States. He probably hasn't even heard this. He has always been a warmonger who celebrates wars for dead people dying for money for the rich bureaucrats. That's Piers Morgan. And actually, it's funny. He actually has me blocked on Twitter because I've actually called him out on this many times in the past. So he doesn't debate. He can't talk about policy because he's a warmonger. He's paid by Big Pharma. He's owned by big media. And he's a stooge, but I do love his debates that he has with like these. So I will watch it and react to it. But Piers, no one cares what you're talking about if you ever see this.
Expressed to me by professors and everybody else. I don't certainly look upon her as some kind of traitor for having that view. What do you think?
Okay, first of all, I believe that for half of those 10 years, wasn't she a celebrated Democrat, or am I forgetting or missing something? That said, let's look at what she's actually said. So this is a combat veteran that was deployed to Iraq, which was an absolute pointless war by neocons like Dick Cheney,
Trump's new nephew.
I personally think is a war criminal, but we could table that argument for another day. This is a woman that I imagine has seen people die in horrible ways, has seen mothers lose sons, wives, lose husbands. She's for peace. Now, when you are engaging in a proxy war with a nuclear power, I would imagine that we should do everything possible to ensure that that does not happen. And in addition, she's also raising the alarm bell about biochemical weapons in Ukraine, these labs, which is exactly how we got COVID, is gain of function
Didn't I just say that?
research.
Didn't I
And she
just
has said
say that?
specifically that we need diplomacy.
I mean, I should be on these shows. I'm telling you guys, everything that I hear them talking about, I eventually say before they say it about the biolabs that are taxes funding Ukraine, which is true. So Ukraine is no republic, as they call it, or like the left likes to say democracy, which is just authoritarianism. That's it.
That if you look at Reagan, he spoke with Gorbachev. If you look at Kennedy, he spoke with Khrushchev to avoid disaster. That's what she has advocated for. That's why she sat with Assad and all of the people, forgive me, the people that opposed him. She sat with everybody when she went to Syria. Didn't Nancy Pelosi also sit with Assad, unless I'm crazy? And not only that, if we look at, I'm with Dave.
No one wants to hear you talk, Joe Walsh. Soy boy, stop talking.
Civilians, well before.
I love him.
Okay, so here's my question. So you wouldn't sit down with these kinds of people and you would just let people die when ironically it's the military industrial complex that's making, oh my God, isn't it almost $1 trillion off of these wars? I mean, who's profiting
more than
off
that
of this? There were numerous off-ramps here. So what are you going to do? You want to punch Putin in the nose because he's a bully?
Okay, let me just jump in.
Oh, Piers, he has a little earpiece in his ear. They're like, you can't let him say that. You can't let him say that because anytime that you make Putin look the slightest nice or normal, then they got to cut you off right away. And that's what I'm saying. Piers is just another stooge for the liberal media.
Let me jump in. I want to ask Joe this question because the New York Times reported yesterday a major change in U.S. policy. allowing Ukraine to use American-supplied long-range weapons inside Russia. I think this is a good thing.
What?
I think you've got to push Putin hard, especially if you're talking about negotiating at any stage some kind of settlement. He can't be seen to do that from a position of overwhelming
So dumb, Piers.
potential victory. He's got to be on the back foot, is my view. Donald Trump Jr. posted to X on Sunday night, the military-industrial complex seems to want to make sure they get World War III going before my father has a chance to create peace and save lives.
Pretty much.
Got to lock in those trillions. Life be damned, imbeciles.
So what's wrong
to
with
me,
that?
I mean, we just don't know what Donald Trump's view of all this is.
He's anti-war, you clown. He's already said this. They had no wars under him last time. He wants to solve it day one. He's going to make sure there's peace treaties, peace negotiations right off the bat. And Piers doesn't like that because he's a warmonger. God,
with Zelensky several times. We know he's been talking to Putin. We know he says he can resolve this in 24 hours. We're not sure when that time period starts. But what do you make of all this? How concerned should the Ukrainians be that on the one hand, the good news, they're getting these long-range missiles, and on the other, you're getting all these signs from the Trump world that they don't want to have anything to do with this?
Yeah, Piers, because again, you live in the UK. This can lead to World War, you idiot. It's amazing people this dumb are on big media. Hey, I support just sending nukes to Ukraine, even though it can lead to world war with the US and Russia and possibly China and all these other countries who aren't our adversaries. But let's just do it because we will just let you. How about this, Piers? You send all of your money, all of your resources, send it all to Ukraine since you're so obsessed with other countries. It baffles me how people are actually think this way. He should not be on big media at all.
I'll take a first stab. I think it's a good move, but Piers, it should have been done a long time ago by Biden. It may be a little too late, but I'm glad he did it. If I'm Ukraine and I'm Zelensky, I'm extremely concerned. I mean, let's just not erase 2 years of Trump's campaign history where he's made very clear he doesn't give a damn about Ukraine. He wants to end the war. If that means he'll help cut up Ukraine and give a bunch of territory to Russia, he'll do it. He's extremely friendly.
We don't know
with Putin.
that yet.
And again,
we don't know that yet. He's not said that.
No, but we know based on what he's said that he's been critical of Zelensky and he's been nothing but praise for Putin. And again,
well, actually, the only one he's met actually recently is Zelensky, not Putin. So again, we don't know. And Zelensky seemed quite happy about the way that meeting went. So here's the thing about Trump.
The boss is back.
The one undeniable thing about him is that he is got a big ego.
He's unpredictable.
Nothing wrong with that.
Dangerous.
So have I. You got a big ego.
No, but you don't have balls. It's like you have zero balls. You are a warmonger. No one likes you, and you're just a prop for big media. Trump is unpredictable. You can't really predict what he's going to do because you don't know if he means business or if he isn't serious. Where Biden, he's not going to do nothing. So that's why no wars happen under Trump. It's not that hard to get, Piers, but we know you're a warmonger. We know you love to make money off big media and military-industrial complex. So they pay you. We get it.
And the last thing he will want to do when he becomes president again is the first thing is to give Vladimir Putin a win. He's not going to do that. He's not going to allow Putin to have some victory parade over Ukraine. I can't believe that Trump, the first thing he wants is to say to Putin, a Russian dictator, there you go, you beat the Americans at anything, which is how it would be construed.
Who cares what you think?
Respectfully disagree. And by the way, he just gave Putin a big win because he just picked a Putin propagandist to be in charge of our intelligence. That's a big win for Putin.
Okay, let me bring in Vinny.
Piers,
let me bring in Vinny. Vinny,
Piers.
Your response.
This is just ridiculous.
But Piers, I honestly think I'm in the twilight zone when this guy talks. Like, are we forgetting that for 4 years nothing happened? Okay, nothing happened with Russia. Your Russian asset BS dialect. It's horseshit. Who's in charge right now of national intelligence? It's Avril Haines. Okay, under her, she couldn't foresee this Russia invasion in Ukraine. We're talking about everything that has already happened. I love how it's always Trump. Now it's Tulsi. It's Russia. Why did none of this happen 4 years ago?
Squid man, soy boy.
He literally went on camera yesterday, Putin, and said, if you guys launch anything, I'm going to use nuclear capability.
Hang on,
Enough of this
He's going to cut him off.
Vinny,
See,
Vinny.
anytime you start talking for Russia, and it's not even for Russia, it's just saying, hey, you're attacking Russia, so you're giving us the means we're going to have to defend ourselves. He cuts him off right away because you can never make Russia look like the people who are getting bullied ever. And they are getting bullied. I mean, everyone's coming after him. They didn't want the war. Actually, the United States started the war.
Hey, Vinny, hang on. You talk about BS. He has threatened to use nuclear weapons from day one of this war. And guess what? Every time the West has actually crossed one of his so-called red lines, he's done nothing. I don't think there's any chance.
Oh, yeah, so let's take a chance.
Putin is going to press a nuclear button. Because
why should we take a chance?
He would be vaporized along with his country.
So would we.
In 30 nanoseconds. So if you think about it logically, this guy's not an Islamic fundamentalist. He's not going to risk his own life, right, for some great cause. So he's not that way minded.
So let's just play. Let's just keep on pushing him into a corner until he has to react. Because you, Piers, think he's a pansy while you sit in your little propped up chair in your $1 million mansion, protected by security, while Americans have to eventually die because it will lead to world war. Ignorant comments like this really tick me off. I mean, piss me off. Talk about ignorance right there.
He's a megalomaniac oligarch who's built $100
billion he's not American, Gina, so it makes sense.
Empire out of being a former KGB thug.
What does that have to do with anything?
The country in the same way. But this idea that he's going to press a button that signals
let's just test him.
MAD, as they call it, MAD, mutually assured destruction. Why would he do that? So why do we keep allowing him to rattle his nuclear saber rather than it being what it should be?
You've never fought in the military, Piers.
Against being attacked as an offensive weapon to stop people getting involved. Why do we allow him to do that? When did Republicans like you, Vinny, I say this with great respect, you know I love you, but when did Republicans,
I love you too.
When did Republicans start to just back off Russian dictators?
We're anti-war,
and
idiot.
want them to win, which is effectively what would happen here if we let Ukraine go and don't help them.
Hold on a second.
I mean,
am I missing something? Because
hang on, Gillian, I'll come to you. Just get Vinny to respond first.
Okay.
Well, Piers, and again, Jill, I'll be very quick. And Piers, I get it. Everybody always threatens, especially when they're nuclear power.
It's your turn.
But I'm going back to my point. No, it's all good. Jillian, it's all good. So, but Piers, and I go back to my point. So he's always threatened and he's done it. I don't take any nuclear threat. I worked at a nuclear missile base, Piers, in Malmstrom Air Force Base,
Piers
Montana,
never did.
when I was in the United States Air Force. Okay, this isn't people. I know he's threatened or he hinted, but the fact that now we're sending long-range missiles to go into Russia. This is ridiculous.
Well, hang on. Vinny, hang on. He's just got 10,000 troops from North Korea to join Russian forces to attack Ukrainians. Sorry, where's the response to that dramatic escalation? Why is America not going, no, that's not happening on our watch?
This looks bad for Piers.
Which I think is
really
why Biden's done what he's done.
Morgan.
It's too little, too late. But Gillian, you want to get involved, Gillian?
Well, here's how it looks to me, okay? When they disbanded the USSR, didn't we promise not to expand NATO?
That's what it comes
and then
down
didn't we
to.
Subsequently move it like 1,000 or so miles?
Didn't I just say that? No expansion of NATO. That was the sole agreement. And then when Biden and Kamala got in, hey, come on in, Ukraine. That's what started the war. That's what started it. That was the whole starter of it. And Piers is probably going to interrupt her and not let her finish, but she is 100% on target right there.
Right up against the Russian border.
Yep.
Didn't we add like 14 countries? Wasn't that our part of the bargain that we weren't going to do it?
Yep.
And then we did exactly what he said do not do.
Yep.
And if you look at the past, 3 decades, there's plenty of evidence that suggests we have been pushing to do that. And that is what I think Tulsi is trying to illustrate, is an understanding of what role we played.
When has NATO ever acted?
I'm not anti-American.
Hang on. When has NATO?
No? Okay, so someone
hang on, Gillian. When has NATO ever acted offensively unilaterally rather than defensively?
Oh, excuse me. Well, okay, you threw unilaterally in there. Serbia, Libya, Afghanistan.
No, I'm talking about unilaterally, where NATO has precipitated the military action and not acted in a defensive capacity. Dave?
Well, Piers, I mean, first of all, I'll just say that I didn't realize I was doing this panel with two Ukrainian assets who are going to be spreading Zelensky talking points. So I'm appalled.
That is the best.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
Best comment of the whole entire video. Dave, I love Dave Smith now after that. Because I was thinking, are they paying him to say this stuff? Like, this sounds ridiculous. When did this become a whole obsession about Ukraine? Ukraine is not a democracy. It's not a republic. It's a dictatorship. That simple. Russia said, do not go into NATO. That was in the agreement, and they broke that. It's really that simple.
I'm sorry. That is a brain dead non-argument. So let me not start with that. Okay. Now look, Piers, if you're gonna make the standard, okay, yes, NATO took aggressive action in Serbia, in Libya, in Afghanistan, but it wasn't unilateral. The US was involved. Like, okay, but it's not self-evident that that should be the standard. And to Jillian's point, look, it doesn't make you an asset of a foreign government to say, hey, as John Mearsheimer puts it, let's have some strategic empathy here. Let's put ourselves in the position of our enemy or the hostile foreign government.
Right.
And in 2008, I'd highly recommend anyone who wants to can go find this online. We only know about this because the heroic Julian Assange leaked it. But the current CIA director, Burns, at the time was the ambassador to Russia. And he wrote a private cable back to then Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice. And it's titled, Niet means Niet. And what he said in that memo to the Secretary of State was that he's talked to everyone in Russia, and it's not Vladimir Putin. It's his sharpest liberal critics. It's his sharpest right-wing critics. They are unanimous that Ukrainian entry into NATO is the brightest of red lines for them, and they will intervene to stop that. Now, you can feel however you feel about that. Maybe you could say, hey, Ukraine ought to have the right to join whatever military alliance they want. Let's be real here for a second. Does Mexico have a right to join a military alliance with China? Do you think we would put up with that? What do you think Washington, D.C. would do if the Soviet Union, let's say, still existed, and they toppled the government in Canada and put in their own pro-Soviet government?
So you would, just to be clear,
exactly
Dave,
what happened.
You wouldn't want America to defend Taiwan, say, if they got invaded by China. By that yardstick.
Sorry, guys. I haven't been reading the comments. I've been really into this video. It's been irritating me. But did y'all see the Trump victory dance? Gina, it's been going mega viral. This past week, it looks like the Trump MAGA dance has been going viral across the country. UFC, football, I saw it done. There's like 8 football teams in the NFL this weekend who did the Trump dance. We are here for it. It's going mega viral. Piers, yes, he is not American, so he should stay out of American politics because he is just a warmonger propped up by big media. I love the president of Argentina. Yes, he is the Trump of Argentina. Yeah, right now we just got this beautiful red wave that's not just sweeping the United States, but it's sweeping the world, as they should, because all these Democrat politicians who are corrupt, bought and paid by China and these warmonger type industrial complexes, they're all done. They've been exposed. They've exposed all their cards, and the people aren't falling for it anymore. And we're pissed. We, the people, are pissed. No, did y'all do the dance when he won? I did. Oh, I should have. I actually stayed up late that night. And the minute they announced Philadelphia, I was like, oh, he has it in the bag. But let me tell you, I am proud to be an American. I know it's been hard for all of us the past 4 years. But right now, I would say it is definitely a good time to be proud to be an American, because we know Trump's going to come in and take out all these tyrants, lock them up, charge them with treason, and then we never have to deal with this hogwash again. That's what I hope happens on day one.
Well, listen, it's not even a matter of what.
Well, yes or no.
Listen, here's the problem is this thing called reality, Piers. It's kind of like asking if Washington, D.C., let's just say our government
what's the answer to my question,
Well, but I am answering your question. Just give me one
second. Would you want America to go to Taiwan's aid if it was invaded by China?
And let me just explain what my point is here. If Washington, D.C. decided we're taking Mexico City, would you want China to stop us from doing that? The reality is China can't stop us from doing that. You see, we got this empire mentality in America where we think we can decide what goes on all around the world.
Yes.
Now, the point, again, back to this current conflict, 2 months after the Niet means Niet memo was sent at the Bucharest summit, George W. Bush strong-armed it through. We announced that Ukraine was coming into NATO. We've constantly, at every step, even when Vladimir Putin has had reasonable demands, you cannot bring my biggest neighbor into your military alliance.
True.
We have thrown the middle finger.
Let's also forget that, let's not forget, I meant to say, that Putin tried to actually join NATO. And who shut that down? Who said no? Wasn't it Bill Clinton? I'm pretty sure that shut it down. So, I mean, NATO was created to prevent Russia from pretty much taking over the world. But Russia wanted to join and just be peaceful, wanted to be companions. And we, America, as usual, because we are the bullies of the world, sorry, but it's true, we shut it down. So I'm sorry it's going to hurt some feelings, but it's the truth.
Biggest mistake, honestly, I think the biggest mistake.
Wise.
Well, look, I think the biggest mistake we made with Ukraine was we made them give up their nuclear deterrent. If they still had their nuclear deterrent, they wouldn't have to worry about Vladimir Putin rattling his nuclear saber, because they'd have their own to fire back at him, and he wouldn't have invaded. So that was a big strategic error as well. But I'm not oblivious to the history.
Yeah, you are.
I don't think you can ignore it. I mean, Joe, it's complex. Like a lot of these, like Israel.
Yeah, we should have let Russia join. You're right,
and Hamas, like all these
Trump
things.
signs are everywhere.
These are complicated historical issues.
But then why, when Tulsi brings up the history, is she a Russian
Well,
asset?
I agree with you.
That's just what I want to understand.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But Gillian, I agree with you. But Joe, what is your response to what Dave says there, which Gillian also believes, which Tulsi also believes, that basically the West
peace. We want peace. It's really that simple.
Goaded Putin.
They
by
did.
doing what he has specifically said.
It's on record.
I don't want you to do.
Hey, Hope Knight. I hope you're having a good day. Hi, Ruth. Oh, I didn't see you guys all join. Sorry. YouTube's been kind of shadow banning me or something, but lately been getting no views, no nothing. They do this every few months once they start to jump up on numbers. Had a bad last month, but you know what? We are listening to Warmonger Queen, Piers Morgan on the debate. Sorry, it's going to be over soon, but I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Trump 2024, as we know, he won landslide. We are happy, proud to be in America again. It's kind of been hard these past few years under this dictatorship of Joe Biden and Kamala, but now we are going to be free and prosperous.
Again, it's and to answer Jillian and to answer your Pierce, it's because her side is utterly one-sided. Jillian, you said all Tulsi believes in is peace. And if that's true, all she does is attack America and defend Russia when we talk about peace. Look, I understand the situation's complicated, but Russia invaded a sovereign nation.
No, not true.
Putin's to blame for that, not America. That's my worldview. Understanding that we're not blameless, Putin is to blame for making that decision. Tulsi Gabbard has a 10-year history, accelerated by 2.5 years ago.
Yes, Gina, I did hear that. FEMA let people suffer if there were Trump signs on the lawn. Yes, and actually the woman came forward recently as a whistleblower saying that I think she was trying to come across that she was forced to do that. But regardless, that's disgusting. People in need help. And the fact that they're just skipping houses because it's a Trump sign, disgusting behavior from the government. I've been doing the Trump dance nonstop. I love that, Squid Man. Send us a video of your Trump dance. We all got to do this Trump dance. I'll send it to you. That's so funny.
Always blaming America and always defending Russia in every single thing she's said. If you're that one-sided in your view, if you're always defending Putin and you're always attacking this country, that's someone I would not trust to be in charge of our nation's intelligence.
Okay,
yes.
okay. Let me just pivot slightly. Dave, you posted this. Marco Rubio is a disaster. Might as well give Liz Cheney, the State Department, awful sign. Why are you so anti-Rubio? But I mean, most other people have said, actually, he's one of the sort of grown-up picks in this list.
Yeah, he's a warmonger. But
yeah, well, most of the people who are saying that are making the ridiculous arguments that we've heard here today. And they're also the people who essentially, the real issue here, right, is that essentially you have this divide between people who support the foreign policy consensus of the last 20 years. And so it's very easy. See, the thing is here, Joe, it makes
look
the
at
point,
the soy boy
she's
right here
always
shaking
blaming
his head.
America. This is what the George W. Bush Republicans post 9/11, this was their brain dead reply to every single left winger who would criticize their foreign policy. Oh, you're the blame America first crowd or something like that. Yes. Vladimir Putin did invade Ukraine, and that was wrong. He should not have invaded Ukraine. The United States of America is not clean in this invasion game either. And over the last 20 plus years, we have had wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, Somalia,
Lebanon,
Yemen. Every last one of them was sold on lies, has resulted in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of innocent people, has cost trillions of dollars, and has...
And this is what blows my mind. And then Piers Morgan, he just still defends Ukraine. Again, he's not even from the U.S., so I don't know why I get so heated for it. But Joe Walsh, he's a paid propagandist. He's a puppet. And I mean, this is right here, ladies and gentlemen. Soy boy. It's a dude who has no balls. No offense. Sorry, that's as bad. That's worse, I'll say. He has no balls, very uneducated, and probably paid by a lot of these other countries to say these things. But he just says you're a Putin puppet while giving zero facts or reasoning of how you're a Putin puppet. Just because you're anti-war and don't want war and you want to come to peace agreements, what's wrong with that? We do not want nuclear war because nuclear war ends in chaos. It ends in mass death.
Left the area worse than it was before we invaded or before we had, backed
Dave,
the
I
invaders.
agree with a lot of that. Dave, I agree with a lot of that. But I know, Dave,
anyway,
I agree with a lot of that. But Tulsi Gabbard
but let me finish the point. We'll see if you agree.
We're every bit as bad as Russia. Do you believe we're every bit as bad as Putin?
What does that have
every
to do
bit?
with her being?
That's what she said.
He sounds like a
listen,
kid.
Joe. Okay, that's fine. What instead of just it's this emotional game? Who do you think's worse? You tell me the metric. You tell me the metric. Innocent people killed. Countries invaded.
Exactly.
What's the metric? And then I'll tell you who's worse on that.
Exactly.
Defender of peace around the world, a history of defending peace and freedom
while killing millions.
Wait, hold on. Listen, Piers.
Yes, they've made a lot of mistakes. Yes,
okay,
we never should have invaded Iraq.
Now filibuster because you don't want to answer the opposite. Now, Piers, our previous debate aside, I'll give you World War II.
Well, I would say murdering and jailing your political opponents.
Yeah, that's what Ukraine does. That's what Ukraine does.
Of the vote because you punish people who don't vote for you, blah blah blah. I mean, there are all sorts of reasons why Vladimir Putin runs Russia like a mafia boss, which is not how America's won. Now, you might argue, and I think you have a point because I oppose, as you know,
is it not?
I oppose the Iran war very vociferously.
That's a lie. I mean, I saw Tucker Carlson even recently go to Russia because people like Piers Morgan say he runs it like China where there's no rights, and he's literally walking around Russia. It looks beautiful. It looks so much better than America. Also, everything's cheaper. They don't take down their own history and statues or let them burn their cities down like America does. I'm sure there's parts of Russia that are also bad, but it's not ran like he said it is. They have this false picture of Vladimir Putin. That doesn't mean I'm saying he's a good guy because most likely he's not. But I'm not going to say I know this guy when I don't. I'm just saying what I see is he does not want war. What I know is he did not start the war. We did. So, I mean, these guys just act off emotions. That's why they can't see the policy.
But do you think America runs around poisoning opponents in streets in Europe, for example? Do you think it rigs an election so that 90% of the people feel obliged to vote for someone, etc.?
Well, so here's the thing, Piers, right? A lot of times there's in more primitive countries, there's a more naked form of corruption that is more brutal in a way, and is more.
He does look
true
chill.
That America doesn't result to kind of some of these tactics. What America will do, right? Like if we don't.
Sorry guys, I just saw your comment. Who's the guy with the gray hair? Joe Walsh. He says he's a Republican, I believe, but no, he's a Democrat. He's not a smart person at all. At least Putin isn't laundering money through war like. Yeah, you are right, Ruth. That is exactly what's happening. And I mean, Hunter Biden literally had these gas chain companies or whatever you call it running through Ukraine where they were making millions, and we say nothing about it. Pierce ignores it because he's a paid puppet. Like I said, he's paid through big media and the pharmaceutical industries Good home, Piers. Yeah, Piers isn't even from America. He shouldn't even be talking about these kind of things. He's an idiot. Who is the loony guy? Yeah, Joe Walsh, I believe his name is. Very cringe, has no facts on his side.
Like the fact that, say, Yanukovych, the democratically elected president of Ukraine, decided he didn't want to join the European Union, instead wanted to do a partnership with Putin. No, we won't poison him, but we'll just foment color-coded revolution, overthrow that government, and install Victoria Nuland's new hand-picked, members. Now, other countries who don't have the power to do that resort to these other, tactics. I'm not supporting any of it. I think all of it's wrong. But let's be honest here. I mean, America has been the most war-hungry country in the world over the last 25 years. And why can't we admit that?
Dave, can I just ask one?
All right, guys, I'm going to get off. It has about 30 more minutes of this. I don't care to talk about the warmongering. I hope you guys have an amazing day. Please like, comment, subscribe. Love you guys in the chat. Have a great night. Peace.